Hey there everybody, I'm here for a quick video which has been inspired by recent conversations with my friend Timo, Finished Scents, about some fragrances, a couple of fragrances we are using in this moment of the year. So I would like to talk about 5 summer fragrances which are really refreshing, cooling, and also mention a couple of honorable mentions. Honorable mentions not because they are less valuable than the ones in the list, but because I still don't own a full bottle. I just tried from the samples. So let's start with the sample, which was the first topic of conversation between me and Timo. It is Hermes Eau de Basilic Pourpre, which translates to Eau de Purple Basil. So the notes are a top note of bergamot, middle notes basil and geranium, and spices and patchouli in the base. The opening is not hey Kelly, hey Joe. The opening is not exactly what you expect from bergamot, because bergamot is noticeable, but the opening is quite sharp. It's not the usual smooth citrus bergamot opening. You definitely get the citrus, but you get a sharpness coming from the basil and the geranium, which despite being in the pyramid and middle notes, they are immediately noticeable from the get-go. Once it settles down, it becomes a really traditional style fragrance, and I love it, as you might imagine. It reminds me in the dry down a little of Acqua di Parma, Colonia Intensa, of the dry down of Creed Viking, that kind of slightly spicy patchouli and woody dry down patchouli that goes woody, not green or medicinal as in other cases. So this was the first honorable mention, Hermes Eau de Basilic Pourpre. The second honorable mention I've talked about in my video with Nick a couple of weeks ago about Imajomo, and this one it's quite ironic because it's Winter in Manaslu. The fragrance that pictures the winter in Himalaya is actually the most cooling, refreshing fragrance of those in the sample set of the Imajomo releases. Hey Nina, hi. So, why this is refreshing despite being called winter? Because it's, as you can imagine, if you can imagine the wind on the Himalaya mountains in winter, how extremely cold should it be. And this is extremely cooling, and in hot, humid days like we are experiencing now in northern Italy, this is a blessing. This is something you want to reach for. You have mint, a lot of mint here, anise, basil, a lot of herbal, fresh herbal notes. with that spiky the smell of anise. Then you have green and coniferous notes, which add to the coolness with their balsamic effect, like cypress, pine. And then you have a woody drydown, and woods give some guts, some staying power, and some lasting mosquito freak. Some lasting power to the fragrance without making it warmer, like could be I don't know, tonka or other kind of resins that usually warm up the fragrance, while cedar and sandalwood here is not the kind of creamy, milky sandalwood. This is a dry sandalwood, more akin to cedar, to pencil shave kind of smell in the wood. This doesn't take away, more than add, doesn't take away for the refreshing, cooling power of this fragrance, and adds some guts, some power to the fragrance. So this has been the two honorable mentions, but as I was saying earlier, not because they are less valuable than the one in the list, but just because I don't have a full bottle yet, but I'm planning to get some in the near future. So, in the list, the first one, they are not in any particular order. The first one, Nichanet Colonizé. This is the original Colonizé, not the saffron one, which I haven't tested. I heard a lot of good things about that one, so I would like to test it sooner or later. This is a Nichanet takes on a traditional Cologne, but with a slight twist. It is not, though it has a neroli note, which is usually the focal point of the traditional eau de Cologne. The neroli note is in the base. You smell it more in the dry down, and you get a lot of citruses and kind of powderiness, which is not what I would consider typically refreshing, but in this particular blend it works. There's a sort of powderiness instead of the piercing neroli, which I love neroli, don't get me wrong, but I don't find neroli, though it is perfectly suitable for a summer fragrance, I don't find it particularly refreshing. What I find refreshing are citrus notes, of course, herbal notes like mint or basil, which, as you will see, will be a recurring notes in this list, or fresh spicy notes like anise, for example. And neroli, I find it a little piercing and not really refreshing, though I love the note. This is not, in this Nichanet, neroli is not so noticeable at first. It gets more noticeable as you go into the life of the fragrance. But this is a kind of mix between, I would say, Acqua di Parma, the traditional Cologne, Mugler Cologne, It has touches also of a traditional cologne, like would be 4711 or Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino, that kind of stuff. And all mixed up with a touch of powderiness, which just makes it even more versatile. You can use it by day, by night. You can use it also in springtime with no problem. It doesn't last forever, but it has a decent staying power. Okay, another fragrance that was hyped some years ago, now not so much, is Olfacti Studio Still Life in Rio. This is another very creative, very unique fragrance, because it has the traditional opening of citruses, mint, ginger also. Ginger is another spice which I find refreshing, because it's sparkly, it immediately gives life to the fragrance, sparkle. This is coconut in the middle, and quite a hefty dose of pepper. So as you see, mint is present also. I told you it would have been recurring. What's the twist? The twist is this is one of the very few boozy summer fragrances. This has a note of rum and also leather in the base, which doesn't make it heavy, but as the woods in Winter in Manaslu by Imajono had a little gut, a little staying power to the fragrance. And yes, probably due more to the booziness than to the leather note. I would think it's not extremely suitable for scorching hot days, but it works fantastically during the evenings. During a summer evening, this is a fantastic scent. My dog decided to give his election speech tonight. God damn him. Third one, Lorenzo Villoresi, Aura Maris. This is extremely traditional citrus aromatic done in a modern way. Reminds me, I think the best description I can do, it's a mix between the Oro Sauvage, the vintage version, but also the modern version is just as good, and Acqua di Parma, the traditional cologne. It has also has which is not present in those fragrances, a kind of pine, coniferous note. I would describe it as a fresh summer breeze coming from the sea, passing through a pine forest and arriving to you. So you have the citrus opening, because the wind maybe has passed through a citrus grove. It picks up the marine notes from the sea, the saltiness, and then goes to this pine forest and brings to you the green balsamic notes of pine, of pine sap. This is gorgeous. This is a gorgeous summer fragrance. Hey Mats, ciao Simo. So, next one, the fourth, my scent of the day actually. Lacoste Booster. Lacoste Booster is probably the most traditional smelling fragrance of this bunch. I think it was released in the 80s and the 90s. I don't remember the exact year, so don't quote me on that. But this is a mint and eucalyptus fragrance with a woody base, add some other green notes, but the star of the show are the mint and the eucalyptus notes. It can come across a little synthetic, a little mouthwashy at first blush, but then give it 10-15 minutes, that completely disappears and it becomes an incredibly fresh, green, cooling fragrance. This is beautiful. It smells a little vintage, a little retro. So if that's not your really not your style, probably you want to search for the next one. The next one is Atelier Cologne Cedra Environ, and this is another citrus aromatic, different from the previous ones. This is something Mr. Motz would approve. I will get to that soon. So, straight up citrus opening, bergamot, lime, that's it. Then you have mint, you have juniper, and then again basil. Those recurring herbal fresh notes. Juniper gives a little roundness. It smoothens the sharpness of the mint and the basil that can be sharp, extremely green, refreshing but sharp. And then in the dry down, vetiver, elemi resin, which is one note I know Simone will approve, and a touch of tonka bean to round it off. So, how can I describe this? Let me spray a little because it's worth it. This is probably the best modern citrus aromatic in my opinion, or one of the best. This directly comes down from the tradition of Eau Sauvage, of Eau de Guerlain, of all the great citrus aromatic fragrances. This is refreshing, this is cooling effect, especially from the mint and the basil. This has a great staying power on my skin, at least. The vetiver note is not that kind of vetiver you might expect. And this is in this case, vetiver is used to give a touch of woodiness in the base. It does not give the classic traditional damp or earthy vetiver. It's not rooty at all. It's fresh. It's also kind of there's also a touch of soapiness. Probably it's that kind of smoothness, that's provided by the juniper berries in the mid, the resin and the tonka in the dry down. This is really, really fantastic. and it's you can find it at discounters. I found this 100 ml, I think. Let me see. What is it? Yes, it's a 100 ml bottle. I found it for around, I think, 60 to 70 euros. So if you can find it at discounters, some Ateliers Cologne are not extremely expensive. So that's all for this video, and thank you so much everybody for listening. I hope you have found some good ideas, or if you already know this fragrance, let me know in the comments. I want to hear your opinions about this fragrance I've talked about today. Okay, bye, see you next time.